Let's be brutally honest about something most people prefer to ignore. The starting points in this race for wealth are absurdly distant from each other. If you lost the birth lottery, if you came from a low-income family without resources and without success models around you, I need to tell you something that might hurt a little. Yes, you're going to need to work much harder than those who were lucky enough to be born into privileged circumstances. You'll have to work harder, be smarter, make better decisions, and persist when everything seems impossible. But here's the part that changes everything. Despite this unfair reality, it's still totally possible to build real wealth coming from nothing. I know this because I lived this journey firsthand. I was born into a low-income family where money was always scarce and opportunities seemed too distant to be real. Even so, through good choices and hard work, I managed to study at great universities, build significant wealth, and today I'm an opinion leader in major newspapers. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share exactly the 4 pillars that allowed me to go from where I started to where I am today, and more importantly, how you can use these same strategies to transform your own financial reality, no matter how unfavorable your starting point is right now. So let's go. Most people spend the first 20 years of their lives preparing for something that never really comes. They go through childhood playing, then get stuck in classrooms learning formulas they'll rarely use in real life, and when they finally enter the adult world, they realize nobody taught them how to actually make money. It's at this moment that many young people feel lost, looking around and seeing other people their age driving luxury cars on social media, while they can barely pay their monthly bills. But here's the truth nobody tells you. You're not behind. You're just beginning the real journey. The educational system wasn't designed to prepare anyone for financial success, so don't blame yourself for not having all the answers now. There's something few people like to admit, but that needs to be said with total honesty. The birth lottery is real, and it determines much of your starting point in this journey. Some people are born into families with powerful connections, access to capital, elite education, and a financial safety net that allows them to fail without major consequences. For these people, the path to wealth has fewer obstacles, fewer sharp curves, and many more shortcuts available. But if you weren't born into that situation, if you come from a family that can barely pay the bills, or if you grew up without success models around you, then yes, your path is going to be significantly harder and will demand much more from you. Studying at good universities and having solid training can help you to a certain point. It can open some initial doors and give you credibility in the market. However, formal education alone won't make you rich. It can prepare you to be a good employee, but it rarely teaches how to build real wealth. The big differentiator between those who stay stuck in the middle class and those who truly get rich lies in 2 fundamental things that nobody teaches in school: intelligent allocation of your time and strategic allocation of your investments. Most people waste their 20s working in jobs that pay poorly and don't develop any valuable skills. Regarding investments, think of your money like a stack of fragile cookies. The more you keep messing with them, taking from here, moving to there, the more they'll crumble until there's almost nothing left. Most people treat money exactly like this, always changing strategies, buying this, selling that, jumping from one opportunity to another without ever letting anything truly grow. They think they're being smart by constantly adjusting their investments, but in reality they're sabotaging the most powerful force that exists in the financial world: compound interest. Warren Buffett is the perfect example of this. He made 99% of his fortune after the age of 50. It wasn't because he got smarter or worked harder at that stage of life. It was simply because he understood that real wealth is built by letting money work for you over time, without interruptions. The problem is that today's young generation dreams of popping champagne bottles, gleaming sports cars, and trips around the world, but saving and investing money doesn't have the same glamorous appeal. However, here's a brutal truth that separates those who make money sporadically from the truly rich. Anyone can make $1 million with luck or good timing, but keeping that money and turning it into 10, 20, or 50 million requires a completely different mindset. The best thing you can do when you get your first big win is to take that money out of your reach immediately and put it into solid long-term investments. It could be in the stock market through index funds like the S&P 500, which historically has given average returns of almost 11% per year over the last decade, or in well-located real estate, or even in alternative assets like gold for diversification. The important thing is that you never again see that money as available to spend. It needs to be working tirelessly to multiply your wealth while you continue focused on earning more. There's a simple but incredibly powerful strategy that can completely transform your financial future, and it comes down to investing a fixed percentage of your income every month. no matter how much you're earning. If you invest $250 a month in a low-cost index fund and get an average annual return of 10%, in 40 years you'll have more than $1.5 million. It seems like a long time, but that's exactly the point. True wealth isn't built overnight. It's the result of consistent decisions repeated thousands of times over decades. There are people who automate $5 a day, the price of a coffee, to invest automatically, and after less than 2 years have already seen significant returns. The secret isn't in finding the perfect investment or timing the market. It's in starting now and never stopping. Letting time do the heavy lifting for you, while you focus on increasing your capacity to earn even more money. The biggest barrier preventing people from getting rich isn't lack of money, lack of education, or lack of opportunities. It's the paralyzing fear that freezes any action before it even begins. Many believe they fear failure, but if you look more closely, you'll realize that the real terror comes from something much deeper, which is the judgment of others. Imagine how many talented young people have brilliant ideas for businesses, projects, or investments, but never take the first step because they're terrified of what friends, family, or colleagues will think if everything goes wrong. This social fear is so powerful that it keeps millions of people trapped in jobs they hate, earning mediocre salaries and living lives they never really wanted. But here's the raw truth: if you want results different from the majority, you need to be willing to do things the majority will never do, and that inevitably includes taking calculated risks that will make people around you question your choices. Think of it this way: if you're doing exactly the same things everyone else is doing, following the same safe and predictable path, you're going to arrive exactly where everyone else arrives, at a mediocre financial life. Calculated risks are the only real tool you have to separate yourself from the masses and achieve something extraordinary. And when you're young, you possess the most powerful weapon that exists in the financial arsenal, which is time. If you have 30, 40, or 50 years ahead of you, your fear level should be at the lowest possible point, because even if you fail completely, you still have decades to recover, learn from mistakes, and try again. This applies directly to your investments as well, especially when you still have youth on your side and can afford to play a more aggressive game. Older people tend to put their money in conservative bonds, gold, and other protective assets because they no longer have time to wait for the market to recover from major drops. But you're different. You can invest in growth stocks, cryptocurrencies, promising startups, and other volatile assets that have explosive return potential, because even if the market drops sharply tomorrow, you have years to wait for recovery. Real regret doesn't come from things you tried and failed. It comes from opportunities you let pass out of fear, and that make you wake up 10 years later thinking how your life could have been completely different. So stop worrying so much about what might or might not happen. Stop letting fear of others' judgment dictate your financial decisions, and start seeing each failure not as an end, but as a valuable test that brings you closer to the inevitable success that's waiting on the other side of courage. Look, there's a fascinating psychological phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect curve that shows how our level of knowledge directly affects our confidence, and the most dangerous part of this curve is what experts call Mount Stupid. Most people get stuck there forever, and this isn't because they're dumb or lazy, but because their arrogance prevents them from continuing to learn. They believe getting rich is a matter of luck, of being in the right place at the right time, when in reality building wealth is a completely learnable skill that requires constant study and consistent application. Even much older people with decades of experience need to continue updating themselves to identify opportunities before they become obvious to everyone. If you stop learning now, you're essentially freezing your money-making capacity at the current level, while the world continues evolving rapidly around you and leaving you behind. The real secret lies in remaining eternally a student, not in the traditional sense of being stuck in classrooms, but in the sense of actively seeking knowledge from people who are already where you want to be. Whenever you meet someone new, you should challenge yourself to learn at least one thing from that person you didn't know before. It doesn't matter if they're younger, older, richer, or poorer than you. This mindset of humility keeps your brain flexible and open to insights that can emerge from the most unexpected places. If you had ignored cryptocurrencies in 2019 because you thought it was a passing fad or scam, you would have missed the opportunity to multiply your money in ways that seemed impossible. But the problem is that the Western educational system teaches exactly the opposite. You go to school until you're 18, then to university for 3 or 4 more years, and then your learning officially ends and you're ready for the world. This approach is completely broken in an era where the speed of change is exponential. But there's another crucial piece in this puzzle that can dramatically accelerate your journey to wealth, and that involves who you choose to have around you daily. You can improve your chances of getting rich simply by surrounding yourself with rich people. Research released a few years ago showed that for every 10% increase in wealthy friends, there was almost a 3% greater chance of stock market participation and a 5% increase in the probability of saving money. This happens because when you're constantly exposed to people who invest, who are entrepreneurs, who think big, these attitudes start to seem normal and achievable instead of impossible and scary. We're not talking here about abandoning your old friends or pretending to be someone you're not. We're talking about intentionally putting yourself in environments where successful people spend time, whether clubs, events, online communities, or co-working spaces, and naturally building genuine connections with people who can expand your vision of what's possible. So now you have in your hands the 4 fundamental strategies that separate those who build real wealth from those who spend their entire lives dreaming about it but never getting anywhere. Developing high-income skills that the market values and pays well for, investing your money consistently and letting compound interest do the heavy lifting, taking calculated risks while you still have time on your side, and never stopping learning while surrounding yourself with people who are already where you want to be. But knowledge without action is completely useless. So here's the question you need to answer with honesty right now. Which of these 4 areas are you completely neglecting in your life? Where are you sabotaging yourself out of fear or simply because you're following the path everyone follows? Leave in the comments which of these pillars you're going to start implementing this week, because public commitment dramatically increases your chances of actually making it happen. And if you're really serious about transforming your financial situation, consider the possibility of subscribing to this channel now and activating the notification bell, because every week I'm bringing in-depth content about wealth building. Don't stop here. Explore the other videos on the channel that will further expand your capacity for reflection on investments, entrepreneurial mindset, and practical strategies to multiply your wealth. The real question isn't whether you can change your financial life coming from nothing. The question is whether you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And look, I deeply believe in your potential not just to transform your own life, but to become someone who will inspire and help other people do the same. Because when you build wealth coming from nothing, you're not just changing your story, you're proving to everyone around you that it's possible, and that creates a domino effect of transformation that can change entire generations.